Welcome back into the Starting Five podcast presented by Town and Country Federal Credit Union. I'm Taylor Mannix, and joining me back in studio for this episode in the new year is a good friend, Trophymode. Thank you, Trophy, for jumping on this episode as we get ready to jump into a college catch-up and a nice discussion on the Class A South and North regions for the boys, and a little bit of that B South region too, especially how good those York Wildcats have been playing. But how you doing, my man? Welcome in.
I'm great. Weather's been a little cold. I think we're going to get a little cold stretch here, but we'll be in the gym, so it's warm in there.
Yeah, and I love that. Well said. We'll be in the gym, and it is bundled up. I was seeing it's like going to be feeling like 1 degree. I mean, a high of 9 degrees on Saturday, so I'm with you. Bundle up, wear your scarves, and get into the gym and catch some local hoops. It is about to be freezing. Look, let's get into it, though. We have a college catch-up to get to and a lot to get to, and we'll start right with the big-time Town and Country game of the week, and it was between the UNH Wildcats and our own University of Maine Black Bears up at the pit in Orono. Coach Markwood had his work cut out for him against this Wildcats team. 65-48, the Black Bears were defeated, and it was a tough one. The offense wasn't really clicking. Biggest story of the night was their shooting. They finished the game at 34% from the floor, but this is the one trophy that really, this one gets you a little bit of a stake to the heart if you are a UMaine fan. 1 for 14 from three, just 7% on the percentage numbers for that one. The Black Bears did get scoring contributions from 7 different players in the first half, but there was no consistent offensive rhythm, and that's been the story all season. I looked at the America East stats. They are dead last in the America East, averaging 60 points per game, which is, again, the lowest. The highest is at 69, so you're 9 points behind the top. Regardless, this team lacks a lot of scoring. It feels like even when TJ Beal is rolling and he's getting 20 points, there hasn't been someone in a secondary role that stepped up. And then, of course, you're getting a performance from freshman guard Tyler Bike, who, by the way, got the America East Player of the Week, Rookie of the Week from UNH for this performance. He scored 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and did it on 4 of 7 from the field in a career-high 29 minutes. So you get burned by the America East Rookie of the Week, this kid who had a career-high 10 points, and that's the thing that I think also hurts. It's your rival. You don't want to go down that way, but Maine clearly lacking some oomph on offense, and it isn't the team that we saw last year, which, by the way, now has 2 G League players. Kellen Times picked up by the Delaware Bluecoats, but I don't know what to make of this trophy. I'm pretty disappointed with that offensive effort. You and I were kind of talking a little bit before this podcast began about it, this guard play. I mean, what's a little bit of your observations? I know you maybe haven't seen him as much, but it's pretty obvious this team lacks scoring and a scoring punch at that.
Yeah, speaking on Bike, he's a local New Hampshire kid that they brought on. Did a little bit of prep school basketball after his high school career, but he's somebody that I've seen on the AAU circuit. He's played against a lot of the Maine kids. A lot of the kids that are at St. Joe's right now have played against him, playing for the New England Storm team coming up, and he was just a kid that really competed, and UNH took a chance on him, and that's good for him for producing in those minutes and earning that award. But as for UMaine, like when you turn over the guards that they did, when you have the veterans of Jaden Clayton and Kellen Tynes moving out, and you're bringing in new guards, and you're betting on these guys coming from other programs because they went into the transfer portal, got these guys, and they just haven't produced. And at the low major level, you have to have guards. You have to have guys that are creating shots, that are knocking down shots, and so far they just haven't got consistency from those positions. They need somebody to take the pressure off TJ, and hopefully that will happen. Hopefully they'll figure some things out there going forward.
Thursday, January 22nd, they'll be playing U-Albany up there at the pit, and then they got Binghamton January 24th, Saturday. A couple home games before traveling to play UMass Lowell as America East play heats up. I still, I understand the record right now in conference when you look at them at, 3-17 overall, 1-4. I still think if they can find that scoring option, like we're talking about, if someone can discover themselves and this offense can maybe really define themselves before the playoffs start, I do think it's wide open, because when you look at the competition, and whether it's NJIT, whether it's the University of Vermont, there's no one that stands out to me. It's like Maine went and competed at UVM. Like anybody, I think a lot of us watched that game on ESPN Plus, and it was like, whoa, okay, so you're competing with the top of America East, but then here they are losing a game like this. So we'll see where they stand when it's all said and done at the end. But I think at the end, if they can figure out, as we're talking about, some more consistency, we're going to be able to see UMaine take off a little bit. So unfortunate that the big-time Town and Country game of the week didn't go UMaine's way. Again, 65 48 win for UNH in that one. Let's move on, though, and hit some more local stuff here, because UNE is, I know we haven't talked about them too much down there, so we'll check in with them quick, because the Conference of New England, they're not off to too hot of a start, but Adam Lux is someone I think we really have to have a conversation about. He hit his 1,000th point mark just over a week ago, and here's some stats I noted for him in CNE play. Scoring at a 17.6 points per game rate while shooting 49% from the floor. By the way, the 17.6 points per game is 5th best in the Conference of New England. The 49% from the floor, good for 6th best in the conference. He's proving to be a top 10 player, and this is a Maine kid in the Conference of New England, showing you he can be a top 10 player. He's also 4th in rebounding, 8 per game, which again really shows how much he impacts, I think, the game just beyond scoring. And of course, they had a pretty cool night last night, Trophy, or I should say the other night, where they put on these throwbacks. They won in double overtime, too, over Wentworth, 108-103, wearing the special Westbrook College throwback jerseys. I loved it. It was in honor of their former head coach, Jim Graffam. Lux finished with 25 points, including a late and one in the second overtime to help seal it. Are we surprised? The kid who's one of the best scorers in the CNE doing it, Adam Lux, but awesome night for the throwback jerseys. I saw them. I wish they'd put that on sale or something. I'd buy one of those Cats jerseys. But any thoughts there on this UNE team? Again, I know there's a lot to be desired. They'll even tell you with their record, but at least for Adam Lux, it's going to be a season to remember this year.
Yeah, I mean, Lux is just a guy that's continued to work since his high school career. He was a solid Maine high school player, an all-conference type of player when he was at Kennebunk, and he's just continued to work. I mean, his sister Victoria was a really good college player, a really good Maine high school player. And when you put in the work, get in the weight room, he added the three-point shot late in his high school career. And he's continued to improve that. He can score in the mid-range, and he can definitely use his broad shoulders to score in the post. And he's a guy that has learned a lot of trust from Coach Ed Silva, who I love. So
Ed's the man. Great dude. And he's always around in the public, like whether it be at community events like we've seen at Kennedy Park. He's just such a great person, and I think UNE's very happy to have both them representing them this year. UNE back in action this Saturday, January 24th at Nichols College, Dudley, Mass. They're back home in Biddeford at the Harold Alphon Forum. January 28th, next Wednesday, against Curry. And then they also welcome in Roger Williams on the 31st. Let's head over, though, to an in-state battle between UMF and Bates. An unbelievable in-state battle, by the way. It was one of the better comebacks on the men's side that we've seen in a long time. First 16 points of the game, I should say, were scored by UMF. And Bates was down by 16. It was their largest comeback, actually, since they did it when they were down 17 to UMF. I believe it was back in 2017, which is, I think, hysterical. It's on the Bates website for those who want to go kind of check it out. But I laughed. I go, of course. They go down on the road to this UMF team. Apparently, someone's got a voodoo doll or something for UMF and the Beavers, because this is now the second time Bates has stormed back. And they did it without Babakar Pui, which is something we'll get into. But what a game and what an opportunity as well for UMF, who I think right now atop the NAC. They have to go get ready for Husson next. Lose that game, take it on the chin, hopefully a lesson learned for that group. But to watch them play in that game, I mean, Zach McLaughlin's not afraid to shoot the ball at all. He had 20-plus points. You saw Corey Donlin as well, the Madomic Valley kid kind of putting on. So a lot of Maine kids showing out. And, of course, on the other side for Bates, Peter Cy Hodges, right, Brady Coyne. Really the story, though, was Sean O'Leary, who we'll talk about him. He's been amazing since Babakar Pui's gone out the last 2 nights. But to see, in my opinion, the best team in Maine on the men's side for small college there in Bates have to really battle to get a win over UMF shows you just how far UMF's come, and to do it with, again, in a roster full of all but 2 kids on it are not Mainers. 2. The rest of it's Maine. Shows you just where that's going. And again, they're proving that you can win, at least in the NAC, with that. But again, to compete with Bates shows you maybe they can even compete on the national level with a group of Maine kids. And I love that, man. I'm always behind that. And I know you've been keeping tabs on a lot of that stuff. That UMF team is, if you haven't, marked them down and haven't checked them out, or at least heard about them, time to start paying attention. They are legit, because we know Bates is, but Beavers are up there, man. They're as good as anybody. Yeah, I mean, Quinn really coaches the whole game. He tip to finish. He's coaching his kids. He's giving them information that's going to help them throughout the game. He's seeing things. He's relaying that to them, and it really pays off over the course of the game.
Zach, obviously, as you said, has no fear.
No.
This kid is fearless. Doesn't matter. I mean, he could be playing, against guys in the league, and he would still be going at them. That's just how he's wired. And really been impressed with Jason Reynolds this year, just crushing the boards. He has to be the leader in his conference in rebounding, and just that effort on the glass, earning extra possessions is something that a team like UMF really needs, and he goes out and does the dirty work. Night.
And that's what you mentioned. He leads the nation in double doubles, which is just mind-boggling. He's been a dominant force on both ends, in the paint, out of the paint. He hit a big three too in that game, so it just shows you he can stretch the floor too. On the women's side of things, got to highlight them. Number 14th ranked Bates here in the D3 top Division 3 poll, I should say, 90-48 at Alumni Gym, improving to 15-2 overall, 8-1 at home. They set the tone immediately, 31-point first quarter, and they never let up against the UMF Beavers in another in-state rival that we talk about. 12 different Bobcats scored, 7-game winning streak snapped for UMF, and that's kind of where I want to bring the attention to. We've talked a lot about Sarah Hughes and Allison Montgomery and Bates for good reason. They're up there with Bowdoin as one of the most consistent and, relevant women's basketball programs, at least in the small college level. But to see what Nate Carson and them are doing at UMF is really impressive. My brother Jeff and I actually had the chance to catch up with him on the middays with Mannix and Mannix Show, discuss a little bit about his team, some of the players that make it go. Here's Nate Carson talking a little bit about his team and everything that's been going right for the UMF Beavers as they sit atop the NAC and, oh, by the way, have beaten Maine Maritime Academy already, who are the defending NAC women's champs. So here's a quick snippet of the interview that we did with Nate Carson. Great coach, and some good things to say about his team, including right here to start this soundbite with Jaden Pingree and Jessica Dow.
Oh, she has grown so much as a player. She's always had a mind to score the ball, find advantages, keep advantages. And within what we try to do offensively, she's a strong guard. She's got a good back to the basket game, excellent mid-range jumper. So just getting her anywhere to catch around the hoop is, as much of the strategy as we have. And then, she takes care of the rest. But just from last year, athletically, she's gone up a level. Shooting-wise, she's gone up a level. Been very impressed with all the improvements she's made.
Yeah, and as well, junior Jessica Dow's been another one who's been all over the NAC Player of the Week. It feels like weekly award honors. I've seen her name multiple times. The Saco Maine native. She seems to be quite an engine for you guys. Take us through what makes her game so well-rounded.
Yeah, she is, quite literally an engine for us. Her presence, whether she's scoring the ball or not, is always felt on the defensive end of the court. We can put her on the 5 or on their lead guard or the opposing team's lead guard. We know it's going to be taken care of. And then, her size and her athleticism, she just envelops offensive players and just really disrupts what teams are trying to do. And then, our best stuff is our full court stuff. And, if she gets a rebound, those first 2 steps down the court, we're moving quickly when she gets it. So, she does a lot for us for sure, but the defensive versatility, the rebounding, and just kind of getting us, pressure at the rim, she's just been spectacular at.
Well, and one thing I'm sure that as a coach you probably love right now is just looking at the weekly NAC awards. You've got the last 2 Rookies of the Week in the NAC, and they're different players each week. Lily Gray is the most recent one, Katana Williamson before that. How gratifying is it to have 2 of your freshmen win back-to-back weeks for Conference Rookie of the Week?
Incredibly gratifying. I mean, I think, all of us Maine D3 coaches, we all know kind of the same players and who is who. And to get 2 players like that here, see them have their success, super special for the program, very special for them. Lil had a great trip or a great game out in Delhi. She's worked so hard. It's great to see her, reap a little bit of recognition. And Katana was very crucial, especially in our MMA win, her defense, her shot making. She was a pleasant surprise for that game.
Yeah, and Williamson, of course, coming from Atomic Valley, right? She had a huge role with them. Not starting a game yet for you guys. What's that buy-in been like? Because obviously to get players who come from being the stars of their team to take on a role like that speaks a lot to the coaching staff and what you guys do maybe as a culture up there at the University of Farmington. Speak a little bit to that, because it seems like you guys don't have egos on this team, especially looking at the scoring as well, being pretty spread out.
Yeah, well, they're great young ladies, and they spend a lot of time with each other. They have great relationships with each other. Our captains do a lot to make sure that our minds are where they need to be. And at the beginning of the year, we talked about this is depth-wise as good of a team that I've had in my time, and that I think that out of our team or out of our whole team, a great number of us could start for a lot of their teams in our conference. Is that what we want, or do we want to win and try to work towards something bigger? And they've really bought into that.
And that again was Nate Carson, the head coach of the UMF Beavers. And Trophy, you're gonna these names we all know, man. Jaden Pingree, leading scorer. Melissa Mayo getting 16 to 17 minutes a game straight out of Lake Region. Audrey Mackey, an Oceanside name who's won plenty of state championships. I mean, this team is tested, and I know they kind of took one on the chin to Bates, who's one of the best, but when that NAC tournament kicks up, they're going to have as good of a chance as anybody to win it, and I'm sure if they're going to be looking for an opportunity to go dancing in that Division III national tournament, it's going to have to come through the NAC championship, and they really have an opportunity to take that mantle, it feels like, this year more than ever.
Yeah, seeing the Bates women a couple weeks ago for the game of the week that we did for them, like really impressed with their guards. Their guards are really tough as nails. They're always pushing the pace. They're always looking inside to get opportunities, for their center. And that type of pressure is just hard for a lot of teams to deal with, and it's just constant. Like they're feisty, they're scrappy, but they're also talented. They'll finish at the rim. They'll knock down threes. And, when you can get those easy buckets and constantly put pressure on the other team, you have a chance to blow teams out on the right night.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. And to see, like, the championship merit, too, like Jaden Pingree playing in one of the more memorable state championships we saw when, of course, that Phoenix team took on Ellsworth. God, I was there at that Expo game. That was nuts. One of the more incredible comebacks I've seen, but they have players who have been in those big moments, and even if they haven't walked home with state championships, they still know how to play in them, and it reflects here right now in this NAC play, so very exciting stuff. Want to take it now, though, as well, keeping it on the women's side, though, as well. USM women, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with them. 16-1. It's worth pointing out right away that one loss came to nationally ranked Bates, who we just praised a lot, as you heard. There's no bad loss on this profile when we look at this team. And now 11 straight. During that stretch, they've done, nothing but prove, at least by the margins wise, that they're taking good shots. They're getting ball movement based on all the assist numbers they're racking up. You look at the rebounding and defensive discipline, you can't help but feel Coach David Chadbourne is a huge reason behind that. Someone who's been a staple on the sidelines at the USM program and has really helped build something tough. And now, something that maybe folks really hadn't paid attention to was J.C. Christopher's transfer. And there was an incredible article on D3 Hoops, a feature on her. Must read. I read it and I was like blown away at just how well written it was. And it explains a lot about her decision to leave from Maine, how hard it can be for players who win those Gatorade Players of the Years, the Miss Maine, Mr. Maine basketball trophies, how they're so scrutinized on their journeys after the high school game. And they talked a lot about that and how JC went from BU to Maine and now has found this really, really humble home at USM, and they're winning, and she has a huge, huge part of that. And I'm so happy to see the former Skowhegan player find peace and be able to really get back to playing basketball and become the player that we saw at Skowhegan. Because I remember watching her at the Civic Center Cross Arena, I call it the Civic Center, y'all are going to have to get over that, in Portland when they won that state championship, and to see what it meant to the community, how much it meant to her, to see that maybe she has that love and passion and drive back in basketball again, and Coach Chadbourne's getting it out of her is so fun to watch, and it's important. Lucy Wiles, Dakota Shipley, two other names we can't forget about as well, but J.C. Christopher coming in and being accepted by that group has helped so much, and now they're off and running. Again, the only blemish is Bates. They're getting national ranked votes. I'm pissed, Trophy, because they didn't get a top 25, and at this point, 2 weeks in a row they've gotten votes. And maybe you can answer it a little bit better for me because I've tried to rationalize, so you're going to have to help rationalize in my mind while I think this out maybe a little bit on the pod. Why aren't they nationally ranked? Like, is it disrespect to the Little East Conference? Is it disrespect to Maine? Because it would be unfathomable to me that Division III hoops wouldn't recognize how good Division III Maine basketball on the women's side is, that you would leave out a team like USM because, well, it's a Maine team. Well, if it's a Maine team, it's got the talent, brother. But I just wonder, is it Little East bias? I mean, what could it possibly be? And I guarantee next week they'll be in because they just beat Plymouth State. They should be in if they're heading to Western Connecticut State this Saturday. Those 2 wins, they should be in next week. But I'm so confused why they're not this week. Maybe help me rationalize a little bit. I can't figure it out. A team 16-1 as dominant as they've been isn't in.
I would just say that maybe it's about spreading the love. They, they can't have too many Maine teams on there. Or they can't see too much love for us. I mean, that's all
right.
That's all I can think of. But it's also like some of those programs have had like USM has been dominant years ago. But the return to that level of dominance. Maybe they're just looking for a little bit more proof, and like you said, they'll probably be in next week. But also just looking at the fact that they have a D1 transfer who got minute, wasn't just on the team,
Facts.
But it was a player that just didn't have the role that she wanted necessarily and knew that producing the way she could produce in all facets of the game. She was kind of more of a shooter at UMaine, and now she can get back to doing everything, which she is one of the most multi-talented, multifaceted players that we've seen on the women's side in recent years in Maine women's basketball. So I'm glad that, like you said, glad she has that opportunity, glad she has her passion back, and that USM keeps moving up the ranks.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I shouldn't word it like she lost her passion, but in that article, it just feels like there's definitely something about USM that has allowed her to get back to being maybe a more productive basketball player on the court, right? So it's awesome. I think you're right to point out, too, exactly how she's able to maybe flourish at USM now.
Yeah, as a basketball player, you go from being at Skowhegan and leading your team in probably every statistical category, creating for other players, having the ball in your hands, and now she's getting to do that, and that probably helps her shot. Like, she was relying on getting catch and shoot opportunities and spot up opportunities at UMaine and trying to space the floor. And I'm sure she had a defensive responsibilities as well, but now like she's really creating a lot of the offense for USM.
Yeah, and again, 16-1, they're sitting right now towards the top of the Lilies. There's a lot of action in it. They're next against Western Connecticut. Should mention quickly as well before we go, I did get a chance, just like Nate Carson, to catch up with Coach Chadbourne. Let's hear from him quickly on the team and J.C. Christopher's impact as well on this program.
As a coach, you always, I'm always looking at stuff we need to do better. So, I mean, we're playing very well. I'm real happy with the kids. I've been happy with them all year. It's been fun so far. This group really works hard, and they like each other and like to be in the gym. So, what else can you ask for?
Yeah, and Coach, it's been really fun to see, and you guys are starting to get a little bit of that national recognition that the NESCAC schools here in Maine have gotten with the D3 Hoops poll, giving you some votes. Not enough to crack it. Do you think that respect's coming soon, or do you even pay attention to that outside crap that you can't control?
To be honest with you, I never even look, but people bring it up to me, so I know kind of what's going on, but I don't really pay attention to it. So, I mean, it would be nice. It'd be nice recognition, and I think the group deserves it. I think we're of that quality, to be honest.
Yeah, certainly, and it's been a nice run for this team this year, and I mean, there's certainly a lot of players getting it done, but one storyline that a lot of people have certainly focused on is your leading scorer, J.C. Christopher, who of course came to you from the University of Maine, a former Division I athlete. She looks like she's been a real good fit to the program.
Yeah, I mean, she's gotten a lot of attention, and rightly so, but I'm going to say this, and I say this to everybody, and it's because it's true. JC has, for a kid that's so good, so talented, has the least amount of ego of anybody I've seen in 39 years of college coaching. So she just came in and just fit right in, just cared about the group, cared about the success of the group. So she's made the transition with a transfer is so much easier.
That was, again, Coach David Chadbourne of the USM Huskies. And before we move on the Med side, they're starting to find their footing a little bit, right? We just saw the Galley brothers have a big game. One of them get Rookie of the Week. Winners of 7 of their last 8. They're on a 4-game win streak. I actually got to catch up with Coach Mikey Coppersmith as well, so don't worry, USM men. We got love for the women. Let's hear from Coach Coppersmith as well so we can get caught up a little bit on just how the men are kind of hitting their stride here. At least it feels like hitting their stride in Little East play.
Well, I just think Tommy's a kid that his biggest problem is he's in the gym too much. He's a guy I'm kicking out of the gym and telling him to lay off, and he doesn't need to play one-on-one every single day before practice and things like that. But his just scoring ability, it's definitely a knack. But he's a guy that's added elements to his game from year to year. He came in as a freshman, and was mostly like a 1 or 2 dribble guy getting to the rim. And then you saw him as a sophomore, be able to step out and make some more threes, and then the jump between sophomore and junior year for him, getting over that kind of, I think he was like 22 points a game for us a season ago, and then this year he's coming in and he's made himself a little bit more athletic than he was, and he's just a guy, like I said, that adds elements, and then he's been a great role model, for some of our younger guys that are similar and stature and build in the Galley twins, and just kind of mentoring them, and they're learning from a really great player, with 1,500 points in his career, and confident, and it comes from a really good place, and it's a guy that, like I said, is just in the gym a lot. So we got to give him his credit, and he's the ultimate worker.
Well, and I want to ask a little bit about the development of this team and the season as it's gone on, too, because we talked about it's an 11-6 record right now, but early on in the season, you guys got challenged quite a bit. You won the first 2 games, then lost 4 in a row against some really good competition, and through the first 9 games, first 8 games of the season, I should say, 3-5 record, but now 11-6. So what did you think the team learned from those maybe early season, I don't want to say struggles, but maybe lack of results to get to where they are now?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that we had a tough schedule, and when we went on that losing streak, we played a lot of games. In a row, it felt like we had, some back-to-backs. We went up to the tournament at Colby and played Endicott and Suffolk, and, Endicott's now number 17 in the country. So to play them on a Friday and turn around and play Suffolk, who's very organized and their approach to the game, and they're a tough cover. So we learned a lot in there, and then you go up and play Bates, who has received some top 25 votes throughout the course of the year, kind of to tail off that losing streak that we were on. I mean, we knew that was going to be a tough stretch. Obviously we weren't planning on losing 5 games in a row. I don't think anyone, or 4 games, whatever it was. I don't think anyone's mentality is ever that. But we knew it was going to be a challenge, and it was honestly one of the best things that we did. Help prep us. We were in a lot of close games. We got a lot of good film in throughout those weeks, and just what we needed to do. We got some of the young guys, some experience, and like you mentioned, right, it's a different roster. So those early seasons, me as a coach is trying to learn what our guys are good at, and our style of play. So there was a lot of learning there, and I think it kind of helped prepare us for league play. And like I said, now we're on the road, so we got to go back. A lot of those games were on the road as well, so we got to go back and learn about preparation, and how to handle a bus ride, and all the things you're teaching a young team, and with the young coaching staff as well. So we definitely want to use that stretch of games as a learning tool, and absolutely a calling card for what we need to do in order to hopefully turn around our road record the second half of the year.
Again, that was Mikey Coppersmith of the USM men's basketball team, but a lot going on down here in Southern Maine and all over the state trophy. That kind of wraps it up here. I'm going to give you guys the power rankings. Head to @BT starting 5 or head to bthoops.com if you guys want to catch the power rankings. I put them out. You can tell me I'm wrong. You can agree with them all you want. It's fun. Be a part of it. Quick read them. I'll let you tell me if I'm right or wrong, Trophy. We'll let Trophy be the critic. This guy's a tough critic, I'm telling you. He will not be nice either. He'll be honest with me, and that's totally fine. On the women's side, Bowdoin, Bates, USM, Colby, UMF, honorable mention, Maine Maritime. And on the men's side, Bates, Colby, USM, St. Joe's, UMF, Husson Eagles as the honorable mention. I will just say, and Brady can confirm this, the man behind the camera, I battled like demons with USM and St. Joe's 3-4 because I talked to Tyler. They were hurt early in the season and they had that overtime game they lost, but they didn't have all their horses. So, like, does a healthy St. Joe's now climbing to the top of the GNAC, are they better than a US? So that was kind of the big debate in my head. I mean, I'm interested in your thoughts on those, though, and just in general, the state of all those teams, too, here in the college before we get into some high school talk.
I mean, I can't argue with your rankings on the women's side. On the men's side, like you're saying, the only thing to do is consider what St. Joe's is like at full strength versus what they were at the start of the season when they were dealing with at one time injuries to every single starter on the team.
Literally, literally.
And they're still dealing with Silvano has still been missing some time for them, so they're not completely back to 100%. But they've got most of the guys back in the fold. Remy Joe has been producing, obviously, at back to his Player of the Year level. But, USM has proven it. They got that win early. You got to go with that, and they're on a hot streak. Also, UMF got a win against St. Joe's, I believe. So, they've earned their spot. True. And, yeah, St. Joe's, I believe, has won 5 in a row at this point. They're back in their stride, back to close to what people thought they would be. But and I'm sure by the end of the season, things will shake out how they're supposed to.
Yeah, and you're right. We'll see. And again, this is going to be a fun one. You're right about UMF. I think UMF has a place potentially at 4 as well. But a healthy St. Joe's really, though, we all know they're capable of winning the GNAC, and that's kind of where I fall with you. Like, I could see them, even in my own mind, them climbing up these rankings.
I think they're undefeated in conference
right now. Yep,
well.
Correct. They're rolling. They look really good. But the Husson Eagles are an interesting one because they're playing Farmington on Friday. That's a battle. And the only in-conference loss, Husson's 10-1 in conference play, and their only loss is to UMF. So that's a fun one Friday because as long as Warren Caruso is on the sidelines in Bangor and Husson's Husson, like, they're going to have a chance to win a NAC. I think they've won the last 7 of, like, the last 10. I mean, then going back to 2010, it's, like, even more ridiculous. Like, they are basically the kings of the North.
Yeah, and I think there was a year or two, unfortunately, as a Beaver alum, that we had the better team and the better record throughout the season, and either Husson got the host for whatever reason on certain years, and they ended up, hitting a miraculous shot one year, or, just coming out on top. And like you said, Warren has been there. This is old hat for him. He finds a way year after year to get it done.
Year, dude.
And he's the consistent thing for that team, and they lean on him. So
I'm excited to see how that NAC conference goes. It's going to be fun. I think when we get to playoffs, it's the semifinal round, the Final Four for each men and women's is going to be just dogfights. Quickly, 2 big-time performances this week, Babacar Pui and Sean O'Leary. When I made this list, don't get up. When I made this list, Friday was when I made the list. Babacar Pui had a career high against Bowdoin. Hurts his ankle, so I didn't want to take him off the list for the Bowdoin night, but I had to put Sean O'Leary because after the career high, Sean O'Leary ends up winning the NESCAC Player of the Week because he takes over, has a big performance. I think it was 18 against Colby and then 25 against you. I think Sean O'Leary, and he's also the one who had the behind-the-back pass on SportsCenter, so big shout-out to him and Babacar Pui. Once he comes back, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Abby Quinn, Bangor native, finished with 21 points, 9 of 18 from the field, 3 of 6 from the charity stripe in a 62-49 win over Bates last Friday. She followed that performance up in Husson, 6 for 8 shooting, perfect homecoming, 17 minutes, 13 points in a win. Grace Joffrey, the sophomore from Johnson and Wales, dropped 28 points in a win over Gordon on Tuesday. The Ellsworth graduate is averaging 25.3 points per game, which Trophy, by the way, is the second most points per game in all of Division III, only trailing Alex Charles of Hunter. She's averaging 31.4, so good luck catching her, everybody. But Grace Joffrey sitting second in all of D3 women's basketball there at Johnson and Wales. Unbelievable performance. And big shout out to CMCC as well, the women's side. 18-0, sitting top of the YSCC and USCAA. Next in action when they host Washington County this Saturday, January 25th. Big matchup coming on Wednesday, January 28th, though, when they host UMA, who just had a rough night last night against SMCC. Credit those guys. And Chance Mercier, 33 points. Not much has changed, right? As much as things change, Trophy, they stay the same. Chance Mercier balling just this time. It's in southern Maine, and we can see it, and that's pretty cool. I like that. I like this. I like how things are going down here in the college world in southern Maine and around the state. Things are great.
Yeah, I just want to throw one more thing in there.
Yeah.
We got Will Davies at St. Anselm's.
Thank you.
Second in the nation in assists right now, which in Division II, which
Good
is,
Lord.
Like he came in there, after a year at St. Thomas More of prep school after he left Thornton Academy. And, they had a coaching change, I believe, at St. A's. And he's just worked his butt off to put himself in this position, and now I believe they're like around 14-4. They've won a bunch of games. They're on a really hot run right now, and he has been a major factor in that. Every time I look in the box score, he's 12 to 15 to 20 points, 8 to 10 assists, and just like when you're putting up second in the nation assist level numbers, that's impressive for a Maine kid.
Will Davies, baby. Yeah, and I remember, I think it was like, I can't remember what week he won. He won like Player of the Week one week. I remember I chatted because it was the same week that Cash McClure had done a big week too. So it's incredible to see that Will's gone on after the career he had at Thornton Academy to have it. You always felt like he was, no matter where he went, he could still be the man. It's great to see, man. It's so great to see all these guys flourishing. Should mention too, like Division I level, obviously everyone knows about the JPs, but you also have Ella and Addison Silikowski, who actually play each other in the same conference there as Stonehill and New Haven. So just a lot of great things to continue to highlight, and I'm glad we get the opportunity to here, man, on this podcast.
And Landon Clark winning his second Rookie of the Week for Princeton.
Yes, trophy.
Two-time
Thank you.
Rookie
That
of the
slipped
Week.
my mind too, bro. Thank you. I can't believe I almost forgot that. Dude, yes, Landon. My man, congrats, dude.
In the Ivy
his
League?
father's the man, too, by the way, Nat. Like, just he's come on the Big Jab to talk football. Unbelievable person. Their family are just, they're great people. Couldn't happen to better people, but you're right. He's down there balling out. You think Tegan eventually will ever jump on and try to play some hoops? I know he's a tight end there with the football team, but what do you think? You think he could ever hop on and maybe try to play some Harvard hoops, and we could get a little Maine United rivalry going on? Little Pelletier versus Clark action, Harvard versus Princeton. I think that'd be if we could get that. I don't know how we could convince Tegan to take that on, because I'm sure the studies at Harvard are not difficult or anything off the field, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what the football situation is. I should probably catch up with Tegan soon, but physically he has a D1 body,
Dude, right?
able to play at that level, and has the tools to contribute. And he's one of the hardest working players, one of the best rebounders, especially offensive rebounders that I've seen at the Maine high school level. So, I'm sure if that was something that he wanted to do eventually, they'd at least have to consider it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody of those kids who have that played on that Maine United team, and really just anybody anywhere, like, do whatever you set your mind to, right? And that Maine United team's proven, all of them have gone on and just done so many good things in their own right. It's been incredible to watch, so it's fun. I'm glad you threw him in the mix, and good stuff, Mr. Clark. Hopefully he keeps it up in the Ivy League, like you said. Unbelievable stuff. We'll keep monitoring it. That was the first part here of the Big Time Hoops Starting Five podcast presented by Town and Country Federal Credit Union. I'm Taylor Mannix. Trophies across from me. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to dive into some Class A boys action. We're going to also dive into Class B boys action, too, and just talk a little bit about what's going on the scene quickly to wrap, and then we'll call it a night. What do you say, Trophy? Let's get after it. We'll be back after this break, and then we're going to talk all things high school sports here on the Big Time Hoops Starting Five podcast presented by Town and Country Federal Credit Union. Stay tuned. Country Federal Credit Union. I'm Taylor Mannix. Trophy still in the building. Let's talk high school hoops. We just covered a lot of the college game here in Maine, which is just as important, but this here is where it all begins. This is the grassroots stuff, right? Like, I know college is fun and it's exciting for everybody, right? The travel and, of course, the next level, but this is where it begins, and there's a lot of names right now in the high school sports scene that you can tell are maybe trending towards the next level. But before we get that how far ahead of ourselves, let's keep it on this season and talk about the teams that have been really paving the way here, Trophy. You've been all over the state. You've been in the gym. You've been catching a lot of these Class A teams. Obviously at the top, we know it's the usual suspects. Take me through in Class A. who's really kind of stood out to you and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no real surprises this year so far in A South. You have Sanford, who's, to me, not really a surprise. They may be a surprise to some because they haven't traditionally had the same success as some of the powers. But like as we spoke last time I was on here, John Morgan added a lot to that coming over from Noble and the consistency that they've had over the last few years. They had the talent. He's turned that into a one-loss season so far. Their offense is cranking out every night. They've got a ton of guys contributing. I think they've got 4 guys averaging in double figures in scoring right now. When you have Dylan Gendron, who's around 17.5 points a game, you've got Luke Gendron at 16 points a game, you've got Carter Giroux at 14 or 15 points a game, and you've got Bryce Adams at 10 points a game, and they're all able to fill it up. Oh, and Ryan Alexander. So they got 5. They've got 5 double figure scorers like that. I don't think there's another team in the state, maybe even regardless of class, that can say that. Ryan Alexander's 32 3-pointers this year, really filling it up from the outside. And you got to guard everybody on the team. That's what that means. So putting a lot of pressure on other teams. South Portland was able to get them at Sanford the other night, 2-point win. Strong performance from Darius Johnson, who took advantage of really Sanford's lack of size on the interior, and he's obviously one of the biggest and most athletic kids in the state. But he got it done. He put that pressure on the rim, finished. Gabe Jackson played very well. Lionel Despacho's been playing very well. Israel Mazzella, their other freshman, has been bumping up his statistics recently. I think he had double figures the other night at Noble. So he's giving them more and more throughout the season, which they'll need come tournament time. And then you've got the defending champs Wyndham, of course. Still only 1 loss, and it was a game against Sanford where they led by double figures late, and just Sanford went on an epic flurry to finish that game and knock them off. But other than that, perfect, on the season. They've got the big 3, Colin Janvrin, Tyree James, AJ Moody, but they've been getting better and better contributions from Sean LaBelle, Landon Wyman, Boston Kranis. All those guys have been more and more consistent throughout the year, stepping into roles vacated by the guys that were on the state championship team the last couple of years. So I don't see any reason why they can't make a run at this three-peat, a strong run. Chad Pulkinen's doing a great job in that staff. And you've got Portland really stepping up with their defensive effort. So there's a lot to like about A South right now, and it's deeper than that. But we'll talk about those. I'll kick it back to you after those 4.
Yeah, no, you're right. And again, the way it looks at Wyndham 12-1, Sanford 12-1, South Portland 11-2, Thornton Academy 10-4, Portland 4-5, rounding out your top 5 in A South as it currently stands according to the MPA's website. And you mentioned Darius Johnson. I haven't had the opportunity to see them in person. I've heard, is this true? Because you've seen them. Do they run Darius at the top of their zone when they run it?
When they run it, they have put him, but they also put him on the lead ball handler a lot of times. So that takes away the head of the attack, the head of the snake, as they say, like the point of attack defender that really slows down teams from getting downhill and getting into their offense because he's so athletic and and
I have you think of that on the defensive point, like a turnover. I mean, that's how you get going, quick transition and dunks for him. Mm-hmm. So just again shows you the coaching over there at South Portland. No surprise, we know who's the brain trust that's over there. They're one of the best, and it shows you why Coach Milley again just understanding what's going on there, because I've heard from people like, oh, they sometimes put him at the top, and I'm like, that's genius. Like, he's the perfect body type for that. And you mentioned Portland. They're getting guys back at the right time. It feels like 9-4, rounding out that bottom, qualifying for the playoffs. It is 6th Scarborough, 7th Kennebunk, 8th Westbrook, 9th Cheverus, 10th Bonnie Eagle, 11th right now Falmouth at 6-7. That's rounding out your playoff qualifying teams. What say you about some of these teams?
Yeah, I mean, obviously TA has the defense. They've got Deshaun Alston, who's leading Class A in three-pointers. Simon Gellis has also been a great scorer and one of their better defenders. You've got Kennebunk and Scarborough, who shoot the lights out any night. They can be around 13 to 15 threes. And you've got Cheverus, who's bringing a lot of bodies back. They've been missing players. Jamison Fitzpatrick has missed a lot of time this year. I think he's only played 3 or 4 games at this point. You had AJ Latour dealing with an ankle injury and also missing some other time. Colton Jewett missed some time. So they're just getting all these guys back, and you've got Kaylon Watkins, who's one of the top scorers in the state and the top scorer in A South. You got a freshman leading A South in scoring at over 21 points a game. And so you add all these guys back into the mix, and it's going to take some time for them to all get on the same page, I think. But they're coming off a win at Scarborough, which is a great win for them. I think they lost to Scarborough the first time around when they didn't have all their guys. But you've got Bonnie Eagle down there who pounded Chevrolet a few nights ago and has the size with Max Bouchard, has guards Colin Moran, Logan Sturgis. Benedito Noe has been out for a while dealing with an issue, so hopefully he'll be back at some point. But John Trull is no slouch. He's been there and done that, so it's a really deep class.
Yeah, it is. And up in A North, just a quick little highlight on those teams. I mean, Camden Hills 12-0 at the number 1 spot. Brunswick 11-2 at number 2. 9-4 number 3 is Edward Little. 4th is Lewiston 8-5, and 5th is Mount Blue at 8-5. Bangor, Hamden, Skowhegan rounding out the bottom 8. What do you make of the North before we jump into that B South region? Because it's just as competitive up there, especially at the top of A North.
Yeah, I mean, Camden has brought it together with Nolan Ames leading the charge. They're undefeated. They got a big one coming up against Coney at home, which is one of the top teams in Class B. But Coney's a team that could compete in Class A, so it's a huge game. A lot of talent with Carter Brathwaite in that one. If they come out with that win, I think that'll solidify them at the top as far as the standings go. And I just wouldn't bet against Nolan Ames really in any game, but come tournament time, I think he's really going to shine when a lot of people get tight and feel the pressure. I don't think that's going to happen with him. Brunswick has been the awesome story of A North. Team that hasn't had the success, really struggled last year with Trevor Jarish having some injury troubles throughout the season. Other guys not really stepping up that well, but they're bringing it all together this year. They've got some big wins this year. They hammered Brewer the other day at home. I think Brady was there for that one. But they're just getting contributions from so many kids. It's a balanced attack. You really can't stop one player and have that be your defensive game plan for the night. So really proud of those kids for the way that they've produced this year. And then you got EL, of course, with a Cole Maywen doing his thing, the last in the line of his family in the hoops for now, and on the boys' side, and 24 points a game. Epic night. I watched his game against Mount Blue on stream the other night, and his second half was one of the best performances I've seen this year from an individual against a good defensive Mount Blue team. They've got some other guards. Cedric Makalele has really been a force for them on the defensive end and attacking, taking some pressure off of Cole. Philbrook does a good job with them. And, you got Lewiston who knocked them off in the rivalry game the other night. Hamden and Bangor with Russ Bartlett leading Hamden. He's been there, done that. I'm sure he'll be able to put together some game plans come tournament time. And I'm hopeful. They don't necessarily have the depth in A North that they have in A South as far as the quality of teams.
Right.
But I feel like they're all competitive and they all can beat any of these teams on a given night.
Especially you point out the top, it's right at the top. You have some of the best in the state. Even though the South is deep, and we knew it would be coming into this year with that realignment. But you're right to point out, even in the North, I think a lot of people counted them out. There's some stiff competition at the top, and they'll be able to push anyone that comes out of the South. Let's go and wrap up on B South. And again, thanks so much for coming in today, my friend. It's been a pleasure to have our guy Trophymode in here today. Just one of the best basketball minds that I've been having the pleasure to build a friendship with. So I always appreciate you coming on and talking some hoops with me, and I love seeing you out on the sidelines, as I'm sure everybody does, for all the work you do here for the state of Maine and putting out some great product for the kids to be able to feel proud about, too, when they see their shots going down from your work of taking the shot, because someone's got to do it. Let's talk a little bit about this South, though. We talked about York a little bit in the kind of off-air portion of this. 12-1 at number 1. Madomic's number 2 at 10-3. Lake Region is number 3 at 11-2. Levitt at 4 is 9-4. Yarmouth coming in at the 5th spot at 10-3. Rounding out your playoff spots, Poland at 6. Oceanside at 7. Lincoln Academy at 8, Gray New Gloucester at 9, and Cape Elizabeth sitting at 10, Morris Greeley just on the outside. Now, again, I'll just say it right here. When's the last time we've seen Greeley not in the playoffs there? That was a little shocking to see. I know there's down years, up and down years, but that was I'm not used to seeing Greeley having that kind of a down year for boys basketball. It does happen, but I'm sure they'll come back stronger than ever. But that was something that I was a little surprised to see, is them at 4-9 on the outside looking in. But York taking advantage of their talent that they have, at least 12-1. What say you about this Class B South region and what you've seen of it?
Yeah, I think York came in with a lot of talent. Up and down the roster, guys that have been there, a lot of guys that play AU in the off season, and Reese McDonald at the head of that, one of the best scorers in any class in the state. So they had something, a foundation to build with, and they've taken advantage of that. That's why they're 12-1. I was, not surprised, but to see Yarmouth beat them the other night in a high scoring game, 74-71, and you have Yarmouth at 10-3, a lot of young talent on the Yarmouth team. They have Ian Lawrence, who's a senior, but a lot of the other guys that contribute on that team are, they have freshmen that are contributing, sophomores, and junior. Evan Ornelas scored 28 in that game, that win over York. So that was nice. So you got the 5 team taking down the 1 team. You also had Lincoln Academy taking down number 4 Levitt the other night at home. I talked to somebody about that. It was kind of like a not a smooth game, a lot of turnovers, a lot of missed free throws, and that happens on certain nights. But you have a team that's in 8th, that's 4-9, able to take down the number 4 team. You also had G&G at 4-10 beat Lake Region the other night. So, and that's that's kind of a rivalry game. That's communities that are right there. But that just shows you that on any given night, even though the records, there's a big disparity in the records between the top of this class and the teams at the bottom of the playoff seedings that you listed. Like, those teams are competitive too, and there's talent on those teams. It's just that some teams have gotten consistency, or they've finished the close games, and some teams haven't. But some teams are building towards the end of the season, and that's where you'd rather be anyways, is playing your best ball at the end. So
yeah, and just a quick shout out, Reese McDonald, 1,000-point scorer here this year. I mean, he's just had such a great career at York so far, and it does feel like he wants to cap this thing with a championship. But how fun has it been? I know we've all kind of been here at Big Time Hoops watching him for quite a few years. How incredible is it to see him get to that kind of heights?
Yeah, Reese is one of the most fun players to watch for me, because his game doesn't really resemble a lot of other guys. He has an old school feel to his game, but he can also score from any level and from any angle. Like, it's just different to watch him play. He doesn't rely on a lot of athleticism, but he relies on his skill, his work ethic, the time that he's put in the gym, time that he puts in the off season with his Thunder program. And he's just a really likable kid. Really, really, you can tell that he respects his coaches, respects other players, respects the referees. He just plays the game the right way. So it's probably a dream for Coach Matt Regan to have him be the leader of his team. And obviously, we knew coming in that he'd score a lot of points this year. I think he's at about 21 points a game, so he's towards the top of the class. And maybe the leader of B South. So.
Yeah, and we'll see where it goes. The rest of the season goes, my man. Thanks so much for coming in and filling me, and especially on the hoop scene. I know I've been starting to cover a few more games more recently, but you're always in it. So thanks so much, Trophy, for coming by, talking some Maine hoops with me too. Overall.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Taylor. Always a pleasure to be on here talking Maine hoops. This is, what we do on every single night of the winter.
That's right.
Whether I'm in a gym, I'm back producing content, or building the stats page that we've been building. To recognize kids that we can't necessarily be in the gym filming. Brady's here filming this, and we're gonna try to build this platform and take it to new levels. So that we can keep covering Maine high school and college athletes in Maine, and keep giving them the love that they deserve for the effort that they're putting in daily.
Well said, my friend. Thanks again, Trophy Mode. I'm Taylor Mannix. Behind the cameras, Brady. Thank you all for tuning in to the Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast, presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union, the College Catch-Up. Trophy Mode will be back next week with more. Stay tuned.